It's absolutely more advanced here than some VR applications on the market right now. But we're changing, we're getting much better. I basically have a background where I have, for the last 4 years, been writing quite avidly for VentureBeat, and specifically for the VR and AR space. And 4 years is actually, it's like dog years in VR. 4 years does feel considerably more. I have a lot of startups that I even referenced back in the articles 2 years ago that don't exist now. In fact, the market is like a graveyard. And it's a fertilizer that we need for the next generation to keep on living off that nutrition of the dead models that were totally viable back then, but they're just a little bit too early. What can I say about VR and AR? But as emerging technologies, they are representative of one thing above all else, which is they offer a magnitude or magnitudes of orders of higher in everything. When we talk about the gamification of science, it's always been like a lot of the applications of science have not been able to fully manifest until certain technologies become available. Now, in the example of Sea Hero Quest VR, can you raise your hands if anyone here knows this game? We got one. Oh, got a 1.5 or 1, 2 hand. So basically, a game was developed by the University of East Anglia in partnership with Deutsche Telekom and the Alzheimer's UK Association. And the premise here was with the gamification of science, and particularly the gamification of spatial awareness data, they oriented and developed a game 3 years ago that allowed for, let's say, 2 minutes of VR gameplay to translate into 5 years worth of lab research that is available now for scientists who are studying Alzheimer's, who are studying dementia, any of these types of conditions. It's something that is simply was unavailable until VR became available to the mass market, thanks to VR at this current wave, where devices are, if you play this game, it's not very advanced. It doesn't need to be, but people in previous waves of VR have never been able to have access to the devices until now. After 3 years of gameplay data, they have over 1,700 years of lab research data available to them. So now it's a question of whether they can actually get through it and process that type of volume. Now, our team and our story is that for the past year, we have been studying essentially the human condition and user cognition thanks to the new data points that VR and AR supplies. Now, let's say we never think about this, but the autonomic nervous system right now of all your bodies is completely alive and vividly, subliminally providing data about your condition. There's subliminal movements and twitches that are completely imperceptible, but it is constantly conveying that information, and you require devices that can listen to that degree that VR devices are now able to. Now, let's say the Oculus Go is in fact not really a great device for that. It's a little bit too noisy of a device to listen to that level. But when you come to some of the more advanced devices, they are able to pick up on subliminal and unconscious body gestures and motion, not the kind that my grandmother might do when she's really passionate about a subject, but the kind that you would never even notice. And we all know this anecdotal idea that the body speaks. But now it's becoming something that's not anecdotal, it's becoming science. And it's kind of a whole new frontier in psychosomatic insights that's coming up, that you can even get this information without sensory inputs, special sensory things like EEG and eye tracking, but you can correlate this type of new data with it. And so where we are applying this technology first and foremost is in the cognitive assessment and training market. Now, we all know apps like Lumosity Peak. You must use it. It's very popular. Lumosity has like 85 million members, I believe. And they of course, they get a lot of criticism. But that criticism can't take away from the fact that this technology is helping great numbers of people, but certain demographics more than others. The aging population are certainly benefiting from the advancement in technology, making it accessible and making these types of games that are all scientifically designed now available to users. The reason that this technology is criticized is for no fault of its own, that 2D screens just offer poor transferability of these scientifically designed games. You cannot, without the bleeding edge of neuroscience, if you ask a neuroscientist, if you ask a cognitive scientist, will tell you that it all points to learning being inherently embodied. You can't exclude the physical body from cognition and expect it to offer the kind of benefits. Because, for instance, the scientists who developed a lot of these gamified experiments that ultimately allow you to assess and maybe exercise and improve various cognitive faculties, they designed this stuff in the real world. You can't translate something from the real world, bring it to the 2D thing where basically your thumb is now the primary agent or the fingers. This is an example of, for example, one game that we're developing right now that in the 2D version, you'd be popping the balloons, versus in the VR version, you would be spatially oriented in that game with balloons around you, and even the spatial audio would be all designed to allow your body to believe that this simulation is real. You need to simulate the natural conditions for your body to have the believability to enact what we call in the VR world as presence. And that's probably one of the most fundamental or central qualities that needs to always be involved, in particular in the cognitive training world. And that's the reason that there's a lot of criticism, because you've always been kind of only including maybe a certain portion of your presence into that experiment. Here's a quick video that I think we have a little time for. No audio. It's designed like this. It's the teaser video, just to let you know what kind of layout, and essentially the idea is when you access the Attention Lab VR game, you would be entering a very deep socket of your cerebral network or whatever, and being able to access a number of different games that are basically all about triggering different parts of your mental faculties, testing areas like speed, problem solving, but more importantly, more importantly, and I'm not sure about that, but more importantly, we're not going to be just testing the things that the 2D apps would be essentially, breaking down games by faculties like memory and problem solving, but also additional ones that 2D apps would never, ever be able to test, like spatial awareness. My wife can tell you, in any new city, I don't know where I am and where I'm going. It doesn't matter. I don't know why. That I can remember words ad infinitum. But it seems to be that my special abilities are more skewed in one way or another, and I think a lot of humans are that way. And I believe that the brain training market is not just for the aging population, but ultimately as a VR solution like the Attention Lab, offering basically a daily cognitive workout that ultimately gives you an assessment of your caricature and basically a pathway for developing those parts of you, those aspects of you that might be weaker than others. And at least giving us always a way to become more and more balanced human beings, which I believe is the gem of this technology more than all others. And I'm out of time. Thank you so much for your participation.
Okay, next I would like to welcome Zachary Whitten, Director of Innovation and Content Creator Development at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Yay, me. They let me touch the screen, so make sure I don't break it.
Hi, Zach.
What's going on, guys? Those are my awesome friends from Abel's Gamers back there. They are an amazing charity doing amazing things for people with disabilities. I love them dearly. All right. So I am probably the least qualified person to talk at this entire conference. So thank you for bearing with me for the next 10 minutes while I stumble through my silly little thing that I do. So my name is Zachary Whitten. I work at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and I help nerds raise money for sick kids with cancer and other pediatric illness. My favorite comic book writer has this saying about the technological singularity that when it happens, you won't know it's happened, and you'll only be able to sort it out after the fact once you see what it's left behind. And there was a 9-month period in late 2006, early 2007, when Google bought YouTube, when Justin.tv spun up, and SoundCloud opened its doors. That's that kind of period where all the nails in the coffin of traditional media were falling from the sky, but no one knew it yet. And when these new technologies opened up, people started to play with them and figure out ways they could use them to create new and different things. And one of those groups that played with them were fundraisers, people like me, people that want to make the world a better place by playing around and doing weird and crazy things. In this case, you had a group out of Canada that decided to play an unreleased and completely terrible game where you drive Penn and Teller's tour bus through the desert for 8 hours. That's the entire game. This is literally the only screen in the entire game, but just sort of shakes back and forth and goes for 8 hours. They were called Desert Bus for Hope, and they have raised over $5 million using this stupid, terrible video game as a method for them to fundraise. They do a thing where for every $1,000 that you donate, they will play the game for another hour, and they fill up that space by doing weird sketches, little comedy bits to break up the monotony of playing what is otherwise a completely unwatchable experience. They did that first event back in 2007, and a couple months later, some delightful nerds in Texas decided it would be a great weekend to play every single Legend of Zelda game made in 72 hours. This is back before the first Games Done Quick event had happened at MomoCon. This was the first of its kind of thing on Justin.tv. No one even thought that they could do it. They didn't think the math actually worked out. But these guys did it, and they ended up raising $1,200 for us. Actually, I didn't even work at St. Jude at the time, but they raised $1,200 for St. Jude when they did this. And Justin.tv eventually gave way from being a platform where people sort of streamed each other doing weird stuff, or they used it to pirate professional sports television, which we won't talk about. And Twitch became the primary entity. They realized gaming was the primary content happening on Justin.tv. They spun it off. Amazon bought it for $1 billion. And really, the entire way that we consume gaming and market games changed pretty much overnight when that happened. To give you like an A/B, if you were to say that you had 400,000 people show up to Woodstock, that would have been a big number prior to Twitch existing. Now, Fortnite gets to say that they get 10 million people to show up to see Marshmello play in concert because they can infinitely iterate that content space out to have multiple people come and take part in it. So yeah, why am I telling you guys about this? Because I work at this place. I work at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We're a pediatric nonprofit hospital. It's been open for 57 years. Because of our work, we've brought the overall pediatric cancer survival rate up from 20% to 80%. It's our goal to take that all the way up to 90% by the end of the decade. We ensure that when our patients come to us and never pay for treatment, travel, housing, or food, we have 24 partner sites in 17 countries. I get those numbers swapped. We have 10 million active donors that let us do what we do every single day. We freely share all of our research. The thing that we say is that when we save a child at St. Jude, we save thousands more worldwide because of that research, and that's something that I truly and deeply believe. And for my part in this, I run a video game fundraising program called St. Jude Play Live. We work with those content creators on Twitch, so these lovely and delightful nerds. We get them to, instead of fundraising for themselves day in and day out, we get them to take a day, a week, or a month out from the regular content schedule and advocate for the kids at St. Jude. They do this in the most delightful and unexpected and charming ways. They use embarrassment as a currency that they trade for donations. Zeke in the bottom left there screaming because he just ate a ghost pepper. Meg up in the top right's about to have to eat some horseradish, and she deeply, deeply hates horseradish. They do all sorts of things that will delight and surprise you, like whatever this is. Yeah, keep in mind, we're 57-year-old children's pediatric Cancer Hospital, and they just did a metal breakdown because that's what their audience loves. It's gotten so big, we actually have to throw a con down in Florida every year. Actually, in 2 weeks, I'm headed down to Orlando to do our 5th iteration of Guardian Con, so expecting 10,000 people to come down and play games. And this group has a fundraising activation wrapped around it, and they're expecting to raise $3 million by the time that we hit July 6th. Over the past 5 years that I've been doing this, we've raised, actually this is an old slide now, we've raised more than $15 million, which is really awesome considering that when we started there wasn't really a space like this. It was like us and Able Gamers and Extra Life and Child's Play out in the space, and now there's probably more than 300 charities that are active in this space. That means that worldwide you're looking at about $100 million raised just through broadcasters on Twitch, and that's just Twitch. It's not counting YouTube or Facebook or Mixer or any of the other programs that are used outside of the English-speaking world. And you may wonder, as a very rude reporter asked one of my broadcasters when we were doing a press bit, why do you do this? Why not just keep the money for yourself? Which, by the way, they can't keep the money for themselves. The money comes straight to us. It doesn't ever go to anybody else. And I think that the reporter sort of showed his ignorance about how this space works, because these people, they're in the business of building communities. They're in the business of building communities around their content that bond with each other. And communities want to show that they are valuable and that they have power and that they can make the world a better place. One of those individuals is Dr. Lupo. So he's probably one of the top 10 content creators on Twitch, big Fortnite guy. He, by himself, has raised more than $2 million for us in the last 3 years. He did 1.34 odd million of that last year. And for whatever reason, Lupo's taken our mission into his heart. He says things like this: we will do it again this year and every year thereafter until kids don't have to fight cancer anymore. We have found our purpose. Like, that's a lift from an interview he gave to us when he was talking. It's on camera when we were recording him. And it sort of stuck with me ever since then. Like, this man that is like an all rights, the true digital celebrity, he decided that our cause was something that he wanted to take into himself, and he uses his platform to advocate for good. Before this year is out, Dr. Lupo can look at his wife and his kid and say that we have paid for an entire day of treatment at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And he does it because he believes it's the right thing to do with this audience that he has. And so, yeah, that's why all of these beautiful, delightful, lovely nerds do what they do, is because they realize that they have a platform and the ability to make the world a better place and to affect, you know, this 57-year-old children's cancer research hospital. They have a chance to show them what the future looks like and change the entire way that we think about our fundraising business, how we should interact with donors, and how we can reach the world. These people have become the largest source of international donations for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We are an international organization, and through the power of games and live streaming, we have reached a broader international audience than any of our efforts ever have done. And so why do they do what they do? Because they finally have realized that it's time to do more than just play for themselves and play for profit. They've decided it's time to play for more than bragging rights and help out the world and make it a better place. So that's what I do, and that is that.
Eduardo Ramírez is the CEO of Green Lava Studios. Please join me in welcoming him to help us identify design patterns in serious games.
Oh no. There you go.
I opened it before it got.
Oh yeah? Oh, thank you. This is not the one. Like this? Yeah. All right, so I must move it for. There you go. This is my talk. So, hello. So I'm going to talk about design patterns for educational games. But before I start, I want to give some context of what I do. I have this game company in Costa Rica. We make games, commercial games for PS4, Xbox One, and Steam, from hardcore gamers, hardcore platformers, to games about a mayonnaise jar with identity issues. It was a top seller in PlayStation Network for some reason. And even a dating simulator where you can actually date a cow. It's called Mr. Masagi, and if you actually have a successful date, the controller will start vibrating, and you can massage yourself. So, so we're always aiming to have this like be in the media, be on the main events on the T3, because that's what we do. We make pure entertainment, and we have the same philosophy for educational games, and we made one a few years ago. It was made for the Pan American Health Organization. I hope you know Bardet. The game was called is called Pueblo. It's a game that creates awareness on dengue and malaria fever. For some reason, the headquarters in Pajo made the conversation of the translation of Pittsfield Town for the English version. Both are free, so please give it a try for PC. And I'm also a researcher in UNED, Costa Rican University. And I mean, this group might say, yes, we can learn from educational games, but we have to research on this. My approach was to use this article from these authors, where they took a group of games, they interviewed the creators, and they identified the most significant patterns on those games. And I agree with the statement of their statement that educational games do not guarantee positive results in the cognitive development of the player, and because they're designed to contain educational related topics, but not to work it, and at least that's what their conclusions says, and I'm with them. They suggest that a successful education system should include the learning process during gameplay and not on just the content itself. Because if you think about it, I mean, you can teach somebody to plant a tree in a game. It's a mechanic thing, but how about abstract knowledge, like chemistry, like engineering, or even sociology? Like that's a complex thing to learn in a game. So in that research, they made a list of patterns with three different kind of abstraction levels: context, learning agents, and fun aspects. In my research, I was able to identify 6 of them. That's what I wanted to explain here. Normally, this is an hour and a half lecture, so I have to reduce it to only 2. Sorry about that. So the process we made in the production process, when we started working with Pajo, when you combine the learning agents, you need the knowledge expert and the game expert at the studio. Where we had to talk with lots of doctors, and the game designer. We both have different ideas, of course. Like we have more gaming ideas, and the doctors were like, "Yeah, we need to answer questions like to the players." So our conclusion was to blend these ideas and came up with a concept. That concept was inspired in Monkey Island. I'm not sure if you were aware of this game. Paper Mario to make it more flexible for kids to play. I mean, Monkey Island is an adventure game where it's dex-based, so that's the reason we choose it. And of course, I remember we spent a lot, like seriously a month, working with the doctors, learning about dengue and malaria fever. So this is how the game looks. It's a 2D game. It was designed for low-budget computers, so it runs everywhere, like in a low-spec computer. All right, so that's the result of that brainstorming. So how to make interaction instructive? Doctors were very, they wanted to make questions and answers in the game. But of course, I mean, that's something that these authors agreed. This is a low budget solution, and that's not good for anybody. And I mean, you might seen this before, but games that claim that they're educational just because they have some background with colorful things. This is a random question and some random answers, but you will not actually learn from this. So what we did, we didn't have like a big budget, but we have a lot of passion. So we made this complex dialogue system where the questions were introduced in a natural way with a conversation, and we blend this with other type of conversations. For example, this game has a lot of humor. This guy is looking for a chocolate hot dog, and the kids will want to learn more, but it's the same mechanic for answering those questions in the game. So there's a lot of patterns identified in here. Of course, there's this is a research, so if you want to go deeper on the different patterns we identified in this game, the article is in Springer. I'm not sure if you, some educators may know it, some super geeks will pay for that service. It is academia how's it called? Base for paperwork papers. So some of the results, when we made this game, we tested a lot with kids in schools. And you may notice, this is in Costa Rica, you may notice the computers, that's a computer lab. So look at the monitors, you make your own conclusions. It's hard. We made a test of questions after and before on knowledge on the topic, malaria and dengue fevers. So, and the result was very positive. It was 200, there's data missing there, but it was 200 kids, and it was an improvement of correct answer from 54.6% to 75%. And that's a big difference, since there was no teachers in behind explaining the game. It was an automatic process that teach something and actually give positive results. So thank you. This is, I made it too quick. So if you need more information about this research, you can reach me out, and the games are for free, so you can give it a try. Thank you.
Next up is Amy Zimmerman, producer of M&E Innovation Group at Unity Technologies. She is here to help us learn how to play for more than bragging rights.
Thank you. I work for a big tech company, but I don't know how to use this technology. Ooh, bear with me. Okay.
I don't think that's your fixed one.
No, that's not.
Hit escape.
Oh no. Sorry guys. One moment. Oh yeah. Guys. Okay. So, yes. Hello everyone. My name is Amy Zimmerman. I'm a senior producer on the M&E Innovation team at Unity. And I'm here to speak to you about Unity for Humanity, which is an initiative I started last year at Unity to support creators working in the activism sphere, working on projects that deal with social issues, humanitarian, science, environmental, you name it, on any platform that Unity supports. So for those of you who are not familiar with Unity, Unity is the world's most widely used 3D development platform. 60% of all AR and VR is created with Unity, along with half of the world's mobile games. So we have a huge reach. But I'm here today to talk to you about Unity for Humanity, which is something that I'm very proud of because it was something I wanted to do for so long, and it's finally coming to fruition. So I'm really excited to be here today to speak to you about it, because I feel like I've landed in the mecca of people using technology to change the world. So I'm just so honored to be here to be able to speak to you about this today. Unity for Humanity is an initiative to support creators working in this sphere. It's financial support as well as marketing support. So every year we choose a winner, and the submissions just closed for this year. So at the end of the presentation, I'll let you know about next year. And how this came to be was I was working for a team called Made with Unity, and our mission was to celebrate and support creators making things with Unity. But I was seeing more and more of these projects that were causing meaningful change in our world, really wanting to make a difference, and we knew that we needed to give these projects a spotlight and support them as much as possible. So I take you back to last year. I met a bright young creator called Asad Malik, who had created this project called Terminal 3, and it was about racial profiling, and it was an XR experience, and it was very powerful. And it was premiering at Tribeca Film Festival last year, and while it was premiering, his own parents could not enter the country due to the racial profiling that he was talking about in his own project. And it was just such a profound experience, and a project really aiming to bring awareness and trying to change the world. And so he was awarded the first Unity for Humanity grant. And that kickstarted our initiative. So our mission is to empower creators who are working in this activism sphere, and to support creators trying to break down stigma with their projects. And again, it's on any platform that Unity supports, whether it be a film, an XR experience, a game. So the results of this year, I received 216 projects and tools that are encompassing these themes. And I wanted to bring to your attention, because we are in the health and wellness track, that 40% of those were in the health and wellness category. So, this is my old deck with that's not formatted properly. Please excuse that. So, the most surprising outcome of this year was not only people using technology to tell really hard stories like Asad had done with Terminal 3, or some of the stories that we saw come through, but also people using technology to create tools that had real-world applications. So we call those XR tools, and by XR I mean AR and VR. So again, sorry about my slide formatting, but these are just like a few that I pulled out that are an example of XR tools that are made with Unity, that came through the initiative, or have come through to us through Unity for Humanity. And obviously this list is not exhaustive, but I wanted to highlight the tools, because the winner of Unity for Humanity this year, which we have not announced yet, but is an XR tool. We saw that being a big kind of trend this year. Everything from yoga to phantom limb therapy, where people have created a VR experience to help people with phantom limb pain, where they put back the arm or the leg, and they slowly take it away through therapy to allow the brain closure. Like, just really fascinating real-world applications of this technology. Just three projects I wanted to highlight that are made with Unity that are in the health and wellness sphere. Clean It Up, which is an AR tool to help visualize air pollution in your location. It takes a real-world reading through an AR mobile app and gives you a visualization of how much air pollution you're breathing in. It's out of a team out of London. This is actually one of our finalists this year. Another tool, which I had to put up here for personal reasons, because it was one of the first projects that I had heard of when I came to Unity and knew nothing about Unity or XR or games at all. And it really inspired me to look more into what people are doing with our technology. Is Achille Interactive, with a group of neuroscientists who are aiming to create the first digitally prescribed medicine through video games for learning challenges. I just thought that was such a fascinating project, and I think they're still working on that now with the FDA. And the last one I just wanted to bring to your attention is called Embody, and it is a great example how wellness brands are harnessing the power of XR to bring into their own initiatives. So this is a guided meditation and yoga experience through MAP Studios and Lululemon, and it's set to be, I think, in their stores coming out this year. It premiered at Fernandes Film Festival this year. So just three made with Unity tools that are working in the health and wellness sphere. So clearly I should not teach how to make a PowerPoint slide, but part of my job is receiving people's pitches, people telling me their stories and how they're creating and using our technology to tell their story. And a lot of people ask me, how can we be successful? And these are also some guides that we use for when we do our selection for Unity for Humanity. This really gives us an idea of how to choose projects. So some of their team's sort of tidbits on how to be successful. A project that is accessible, that's really important. If you're creating something that is for people suffering from depression or anxiety, you want to make sure that that project gets into the right hands, that those people who really need it are able to access it. So accessibility is a big thing. And that comes with a distribution plan. We want to see a distribution plan that really maximizes reach. How are you going to get it out into the world? Location-based entertainment, film festivals, and sell it online. A viable production plan. Sometimes I see pretty large production and finance plans, but you want to make sure it's viable. Are you able to execute on that? And my favorite one is, can this tool or project affect real change in our world? Could it affect policy, communities, people's lives, the relevancy of the project? And the last one is the technical achievement. Are you using technology in a new and an innovative way? In my case, are you using Unity in an innovative way? But that's another criteria that we look for as well. So you'll probably see this quote quite a bit here because I think it's relevant, but I just love it because here we are in this room and we are all aiming to create or have created some pretty powerful tools, and we're all able to do this together. And working for a company like Unity, I'm able to also help in your production or in your creations, and I just am very honored to be here together, and I hope that we can work on something and keep in touch with your projects. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, so please email me if you have questions. And I should note that Unity for Humanity is closed for 2019. We're about to announce the winner next week, or in the coming weeks. But then the 2020 will start in January, so keep your eyes peeled for Unity for Humanity.
Finally today, we have Claudia-Santi Fernandes, Associate Director of Play to Prevent Lab at the Yale Center for Health and Learning Games. Today she will share how to address school climate through a game experience.
Last but not least, guys, I hope everyone's still paying attention. Don't worry, I made it a little interactive to get everyone engaged, and you'll also find out why I made it interactive in a second. All right. Okay. So, how many of you here play video games? Yay, this is a video game conference, right? Well, like many of you, I play video games as well, but I play them for work. Pretty cool, right? I work at the Play to Prevent Lab, and we create video games to help teens make healthier choices. Before I dive into our work, let me tell you a little bit more about me. My name is Claudia-Santi Fernandes. It's a mouthful. I'm an educator and a scientist, and I absolutely love working with teens. I started my career as a middle school teacher and later became a bilingual school counselor. After 15 years of realizing that my students were glued to their devices, I wanted to meet them where they're at, and so I joined the Play to Prevent Lab. I care about improving healthy behaviors in teens. I care about the emotional health of teens. So how do we do that at the Play to Prevent Lab? Well, let me share an example of a project from our lab. To understand why we created this tool and game, let's take it back to our high school years. I think I see a couple of faces out there. I think maybe even a few smiles, perhaps. Close your eyes. Indulge me here, please. Just take a second to close your eyes. You're 15 again. You arrive at school. You're about to enter the building. take a minute to scan your body here. Now walk inside your school. Think about what you're feeling right here. This thing that you're envisioning, this feeling, this is school climate. Now open your eyes. We all had different experiences and feelings in this activity. According to the National School Climate Center, school climate is the quality and character of one's school life. It is how every person, from the students to the teachers to the families, how every single person who walks inside that school experiences it. It's the vibe, the pulse, the feel, the personality of one school. A positive school climate fosters youth development and learning. And that's not surprising, because school climate has been linked to improvements in academic achievement, attendance, and self-esteem. Therefore, promoting a positive school climate can have enormous benefits on the students as well as the school as a whole. The purpose of this specific project was to develop a school climate assessment tool and then embed this tool into an interactive video game with intervention components. For the purpose of this talk, I will focus on the development of the video game with intervention components. To do this, we always start with teens. Every step of this project was built by teens, for teens. During the design phase, we conducted teen focus groups to inform the content and intervention. During the development phase, teens play tested and provided feedback. And in the fall, we'll conduct a pilot study in partner high schools where teens will evaluate the game. We used a story game approach where players navigate through relevant and relatable stories. Through short narratives, we modeled the process of restructuring negative automatic thoughts. This is the intervention that I will describe shortly. The player is allowed limited agency to affect the outcome of the story because our goal was to model the process in restructuring thoughts in different situations. Prompts for deep thinking, planning, and reflecting are woven into the narratives, as well as a real-life activity serving as a call to action. We created 5 mini-games with one tutorial of the intervention, Think It Through. The mini-games target 5 major categories as informed by research and determined by the National School Climate Center. Their environment, which is physical surroundings, relationships, which is social support, support for learning, which is academic support, social media, which is online behaviors, and safety, which is emotional and physical security. The intervention, called Think It Through, was modeled throughout each minigame. Is that thunder? Think It Through is an adapted thought record. Thought records are tools or strategies to assist a person in restructuring negative automatic thoughts in cognitive behavioral therapy. We created a mnemonic device inspired by the beat of Missy Elliott's song, Work It. Feel free to join in. Loosen up a little bit. We need some movement here. Our goal with Think It Through was to teach skills in first, linking the thought and the emotion, essentially the head and the heart, in creating meaning from thought, and then in developing a more balanced thought with evidence. Each minigame threaded this same concept, this adapted thought record, into relevant and relatable storylines. We adapted our thought record to include a step on meaning making. The Know It step allows the player to reflect on potential motives that default into negative thoughts. This step was guided by WISE interventions. WISE interventions are brief, theory and research-based activities that help people change how they interpret themselves others or social situations. For example, a self-affirmation. The goal of a WISE intervention is to identify a self-defeating cycle and change it into a self-enhancing cycle. There are three basic motives that guide meaning making in a WISE intervention. They are the need to understand oneself as well as others, the need for self-integrity, and the need to belong. For this reason, we then included at the end of Think It Through a call to action, which is known as the Share It step. Players had the option to complete a real life activity addressing the meaning they had just made. So let me now walk through an example. Close your eyes again, and I'll do this very briefly. Imagine a teen you know. Say this teen posted a selfie on social media while in school. Once posted, the teen is checking the post incessantly. How many people liked it? Why hasn't anyone liked it? Completely distracted by these thoughts in school. Finally, after several minutes, the teen checks one last time, but no one liked the post. The teen then feels upset and takes down the post. Now open your eyes. How many of you had an easy time thinking of someone who likely has had a similar experience to that, right? It's an easy one for adults as well. Let me walk through how we applied Think It Through to this example. First, we connect the feeling to the thought. The teen felt sad because no one liked the post. We then make meaning from the thought. Why does the thought of no one liking the post make the teen feel sad? Because perhaps the teen doesn't feel valued by his or her peers. We then guide the teen to make meaning and create meaning and provide evidence that they are in fact of value in serving on student government, in volunteering, or anything else in their personal context. The last step is, as I mentioned, the Share It step, where the player is encouraged to complete a real life activity. One example is to post 3 pictures on social media of people or things that make you feel valued and share why. This is an example of a WISE intervention. In the end, the goal of these mini games was to teach teens the skills in restructuring thoughts by modeling how to do so. We aim to empower teens to take action and improve their school climate. Our next step, as with all of our video games, is to pilot the game in partner high schools and evaluate targeted constructs, as well as the usability and feasibility of the game with students. Now, let's go back to your 15-year-old self again. If you have email access, I won't spend too much time because I think I learned very quickly that this is like a black hole and we don't have that much. But if you have access, please text the number 22333. You can text Yale Lab 470, one word. How would you describe your school climate? And if you're unable to join in, that's fine. But let's just take a few seconds to think about that. In thinking about your response, and now imagining that teen on social media again, how can we all better support our youth in promoting a positive school climate? Thank you so much. And certainly, this work can never be done without an incredible team of multidisciplinary members, some of whom are here right now. Tyra Pendergrass, Kim Heaftya, Brooke, the team at Shell, also the team at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and certainly our funders at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative for funding this important and impactful work. If you'd like to stay connected with our team and hear all about our updates, please follow us here at the Play to Prevent Lab, Yale Center for Health and Learning Games. And let me see if anything came up. I'll go back to that slide to see if anything popped up. Well, we tried. Hopefully you thought of a word. Oh, here it is. Fantastic. Thank you for those who just participated. And thank you all so much for having me here. Enjoy the rest of your day.